Welcome to Manna at the Tap, a podcast of Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community. We call the daily Bible reading our spiritual manna. This daily manna nourishes our souls and fosters spiritual growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our spiritual lives. The lectionary reading for Thursday, February 20th, 2025, is from Genesis, the Bible's first book, focusing on the last story within it. It is the account of Joseph and his family. And we will pay particular attention to Genesis chapter 43, verses 16 to 34. But before we get there, let me offer some context. Jacob and Rachel fell in love at first sight, but due to Rachel's inability to conceive, it took years for them to have their first child. After 20 years, they welcomed their firstborn son, Joseph. A few years later, she conceived again. However, this time she died during childbirth, leaving behind another son, Benjamin. Meanwhile, Rachel's father had already given Jacob her older sister Leah to be his wife, and she bore him sons and daughters. Joseph knew he was his father's favorite son, and his older half-brothers despised him. He was a tattletale. He loved to boast, and he loved to tell his older brothers and his father that they would eventually bow down to him. It didn't take long for those brothers to plan how to get rid of Joseph. They told their dad they had found the special coat he gave him drenched in blood, but there was no sign of Joseph's body. Jacob mourned for Joseph while clutching Benjamin even more tightly. Well, let's fast forward. Joseph is alive and living in Egypt after being sold to traders by his brothers. He's handsome, prosperous, and skilled in interpreting dreams. He's the only person in Egypt able to interpret the Pharaoh's troubling dream, and he rises to become Pharaoh's second in command, gaining control over the land of Egypt. A famine is sweeping across the world. Egypt has the grain due to Joseph's marketing skills. Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to purchase grain before they encounter starvation. When Joseph saw the 10 men together, he recognized them as his older half-brothers, but they had no idea who he was. He treated them harshly, accusing them of being spies intent on invading the country. The brothers were frightened and they blurted out that they were honest men, sons of one man, with a brother left at home and one already dead. Unbeknownst to them, Joseph understood the conversation between the brothers as they confessed that their brother Joseph had been in distress and pleaded for his life, but they had refused to listen to him all those years ago. Now they were feeling distressed. After 3 days in jail and holding one of the brothers as surety, Joseph sent them home with grain, insisting they return with their younger brother when they needed more grain. He also returned the money they had paid by concealing it in their sacks. Grain was running low at home, so Jacob instructed his sons to return to Egypt, buy more grain. However, his sons argued with him and they insisted that they had to take Benjamin with them or they would be unable to purchase grain. Jacob finally agreed, sending Benjamin along with gifts and doubling the funds to cover the money the men had found in their sacks. When Joseph saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, he was profoundly moved. He excused himself and went to a private place to weep. Joseph had not seen his little brother for more than 20 years. Joseph had his servants plan and prepare a banquet at his house for all of his brothers, including the one he had kept back as surety. When they sat down to eat, Joseph gave Benjamin 5 times more food than anyone else. The brothers ate and drank freely with Joseph, enjoying his generosity without realizing who he was. Tomorrow's podcast continues this saga. I hope you'll join me again. But before I go, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you recognize and acknowledge the many blessings you receive each day from God who loves you?